In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Please be seated. I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. I'm glad to be back. In Busoga we say, Nsimye Bukina, Obuseka Buseka Nenge Kumoyo. I'm so glad I will dance for you. I was introduced, except a small correction. By the grace of God, I'm the chairman, Education Service Commission. So, I'm responsible for the careful selection to ensure fitness for purpose of all the public servants in education in Uganda that are employed by the government. And that constitutes 68% of the public service. So, thank God for me. But my wife wasn't introduced except by calling her Mama Luboga, which she is. But I take this opportunity to introduce to you my one and only Christine Luboga. That girl is the one I got married to recently. I'm newly wed. Please congratulate us. We got married only recently, 49 years ago. In October this year, we will celebrate 50 years in marriage. I heard about grand Thanksgiving. We will have a grand Thanksgiving on the 17th December this year. If it wasn't for COVID, I would announce closure of all the roads so that I was asked to talk about a difficult subject. It is difficult to talk about in all cultures and in all languages. In Japan, even doctors and professors cannot twist their mouth enough to say that word, sex. They call it something else, But I was asked to talk about sex, a gift from God. And if it is a gift from God, it is what? Celebrating, yeah? What is the evidence that sex is a gift from God? What is the evidence? I mean, some people think it just happened. Yeah? There are people who believe in the Big Bang. Things accidentally happen. How could sex have happened accidentally? Sex was a deliberate gift from God to mankind. The evidence is that God realized that a man was incomplete without a woman. Hey, can I ask all men to put up your hands? Keep them there. And let everybody know that you are incomplete without a woman. You should see how men are self-opinionated and they think they rule the world. What? But you're only part until you have a woman to complete you. The other day I was talking about people getting married and worrying that their husbands are not treating them right, they are not behaving right. I said, but lady, remember, you are the only one who made him a husband. He has no experience being a husband. He was only mom's son. Okay? until, you know what? This lady is the one who appointed you to the high position of husband. Do you mind? And if she's the appointing authority, okay. God said, it is not good for a man to be alone. I tell people that when we are young, we walk like as if when we put our foot down, the world feels our weight. We are so self-reliant. We feel invincible. And we don't understand. What did God think? I can be alone. And when people come to you and say, leave me alone. I don't want to be bothered. Remember, God had a point. Loneliness is the fastest growing pandemic in the world. It is growing faster than COVID-19. And real people are dying from loneliness. So God had a point, and he promised to make him a partner fit for him. I tell people that when God said that, he took the pain out of getting a wife, out of getting a husband, because he gave you a yardstick with which to look for somebody fit for you. And the yardstick was yourself. Because she can only be fit for you. If you want a good one, are you fit for her? Okay? So you measure her against you. God created them male and female. God made them attractive to each other. I told my friends, I don't know how God did it. The first minute, the first second, the first moment I set my eyes on Christine, I knew she was my wife. It was just... God made them attractive to each other. I sometimes see men doing something and their wives looking at them like this. God made them attractive to each other. God created them both naked and fully exposed to each other without embarrassment. Men and women are different, but they are complementary. That is the evidence. Why did God do that? One would say because he loved us. But we need to seek to know God's purpose for human sexuality. And I have been searching and I found that God's purpose for human sexuality is multifaceted. One, it is for procreation, for reproduction. God equipped man and woman for reproduction. He made for the man production facilities called testes for spermatozoa. He created even a factory. And then he created passages for their passage, for their transport, and created a mechanism for the delivery of these spermatozoa by the man into the woman to fertilize her eggs and enable her to become pregnant and carry the pregnancy to term. All that was carefully thought about and provided. God gave the woman production facilities called ovaries for ova and or eggs, and the ability to deliver into the world a brand new human being, thus perpetuating and multiplying the human race. Through this, God commanded, not only commanded, but also enabled us to subdue the world, which means to develop it for our benefit and for the furtherance of the human race. Number 2, God gave us sex for bonding. God created the reproductive organs of Sajja, n'obukyala. Isn't that a nice name? Of Sajja. You can imagine a man omulaba naye ng'aliko obusajja ate omukyala ng'aliko obukyala. Tetwogera biri birala naye tubikabikako. And installed in these organs special nerves so they could be stimulated to make sex enjoyable. You understand? People love to have children, but children are best had through sex. And because of the joy of sex, children are loved like pieces of gold. Through sex, the two, husband and wife, become one. They bond. They get infused and installed into each other's heart. No human relationship compares with a well-consummated marriage in depth and intimacy. Without sex, a man and woman living in the same house are simply neighbors. After the fall, well recorded in Genesis chapter 3, man developed the propensity. Did you hear that? The propensity. Sometimes the way modern people speak English makes me wonder why they don't stick with Luganda. But then they know Luganda even less. But man developed the propensity. I love difficult words, right, Chancellor? Do you know why? Because I paid for them. I paid to learn them. The propensity for making often unwise decisions. Can you imagine? You have the propensity for making unwise decisions. Really? Devising ways of exploiting sex for one's selfish ends is one of the outcomes of such propensity of making unwise decisions. Let's discuss a few of these methods of exploiting sex for one's selfish ends. Prostitution. Since sex was very enjoyable, many people started to want to have sex on demand without the obligation of bearing and bringing up children. Whenever there is a demand for a commodity, there will be suppliers for that commodity. Did you know that because there is a demand for kidneys to replace aging kidneys, people have set up companies to kidnap girls from Uganda, take them to the Middle East and chuck out their kidneys and supply. Whenever there is a demand, there is a supplier. The women quickly saw an opportunity to profit from what they thought was an inexhaustible resource. Can you imagine a resource you are selling? Some young men say, can you imagine a store where you are selling and everything, all can take and you still remain with as much as you have? Omuganda agamba nti ekitaggwaawo kikuwa engaba. You can imagine if you had a resource and you can give 1 million people and still tekiggwaawo. But really, doesn't it? Prostitution has grown to the extent that in some European cities, special red buses move around providing opportunities for sex work customers and sex suppliers to meet and transact their business. Can you imagine that? Make it easy and quick. And the people walk to this red bus without embarrassment. And when you see the bus shaking like this, you know what is happening. Sexual perversions, biological and functional differences between men and women are obvious for all to see. However, some people fail to understand God's intentions when he created us different. As a result, when some people feel like having sex, they pick whoever is closest to them. Some of them, instead of having sex with a person of the opposite sex, they choose to have it with a fellow man or a fellow woman. All this goes on in spite of the fact that a woman's buchala, womanhood, is very well suited for receiving a man's busajja, manhood, for sexual intercourse. Very well suited. If I had all day, I would show you how special the woman's buchala was created to enable the wonderful exercise of sex. On the other hand, the anal canal and anal opening are well suited only for the expulsion of fecal matter and not for sex. I'm a professor of anatomy. Will somebody clap their hands for me? So I will show you how the anal opening looks. It looks like as tight as that, so that nothing from the outside should enter. You understand? In order to keep us continent, if it relaxed, all of us would be out of here. In fact, I thought, imagine I was trained for 5 years. I was told by the time you become a doctor, after 5 years of training, you have become abnormal. You don't think like other people. Other people think, oh, a face mask. How will they see my lipstick? When you're a doctor, lipstick doesn't matter. But it is us doctors who have the privilege or the indignity to push our gloved finger into the anal canal, to examine to see if there is any problem that needs remedy. And let me tell you what happens when we do that. You put your finger there and the anal canal says, mm-mm. And that's what I learned, that if you do that, you keep failing to enter. The only way you can enter is to do that, and do that, and do that, and then eventually it permits you. And it made me coin a term that nothing, Vice Chancellor, nothing in the world, doctor, nothing in the world fails to give in to gentle, persistent pressure. Let me tell you an example of gentle, persistent pressure. When I thought this girl was my wife, I went to her to suggest we become friends. And she said, mm-mm. Me, I'm not interested in you. There are many men who think a woman's no is yes. Those men are not, I'm not one of those men. When she said she's not interested in me, I knew she was serious. I believed what she said. But I went and celebrated. I had found at last A woman who does not take any Tom, John, and Harry. You understand? So I asked myself, Sam, are you Tom? No. Are you John? No. Are you Harry? No. So I said, done. I went and rebranded. And what I presented second time was irresistible. And since I combined the privilege of being a doctor, I often listen to her heart, and her heart pumps like Sam Luboga, Sam Luboga, Sam Luboga. The anal canal is suited for the expulsion of fecal matter and not for sex. Using it for sex may even destroy the mechanism that keeps us continent. Some people even go as far as grabbing an unwilling animal and have sex with it. The practice is called bestiality. Can you imagine? Those people there, the wise people there, are interested. Yes, the other day I was hearing about something they have coined. It is called an open relationship. Where your wife goes has sex with other men, and you go and have sex with other women. You can come and converse about it. Nothing wrong. An interesting thing about being a Ugandan. Interesting thing about being a Ugandan. Do you want to hear? That we copy whatever is going on. Really, homosexuality, you copy. In our house, we have a prayer hanging in our sitting room. And the prayer goes something like this. Grant me patience, O Lord, but hurry. Because when you are impatient, even when you are praying for patience, you want it now, okay? Many young people cannot wait to have sex. One girl even said to me, what if I die without having had sex? As if a dead body is better off if it has had sex before it died. She was pushing the case for having it while opportunity lasts. This urgency to have sex has resulted in many engaging in premarital sex. Premarital sex means sex before marriage. And premarital sex results in the rampant teenage pregnancies. We heard that during the lockdown, more than 600,000 girls got pregnant. Uganda is a world record holder when it comes to teenage pregnancies. Should we clap our hands or not? Teenage pregnancies have two major consequences. One is abortion, which in Uganda is against the law and often results in many unnecessary deaths and large numbers of school dropouts. This perpetuates the poverty cycle and denies the nation the benefit that would have accrued from the development of these girls' talents through education. Since some of you here, only some, I know the rest do, but since some of you here may not know how abortion is done, let me explain. What you see on the screen is the cervix looked at through colposcopy. Did I tell you I love difficult words? Colposcopy. Tomorrow I'll come around and find out people who remember that word. And to cause abortion, that cervix is dilated slowly by introducing through it successively larger dilators. Next. And these are the dilators. They are called Hager's dilators. Hager devised them. And you can see each of the dilator has one side is smaller than the other. So you push in the smaller side first, and if it goes in, you change and put in the second one. And to the last one, so you keep doing. In the end, when the last one, the big one, has gone through, you introduce Volkmann's spoon. Next. And that Volkmann's spoon has sharp edges. Sharp, like zisala. Sharp edges. And these are introduced and used to blindly scrape the inner surface of the uterus all around. Make sure that you don't miss any gap in order to dislodge the newly implanted growing fetus. This is accompanied by a significant amount of bleeding. Legislators around the world sit in parliaments and debate legalization of abortion. What they don't realize is that legal or not, it is the girl or woman who pays the highest price for abortion. She can lose so much blood that she may even lose her life. There was a lady who had abortion 7 times in 1 year. But by the time she had had the 7th abortion, she was like a paper bag out of which sugar has been removed. She was just like, she was anemic, she was weak, and the legislators didn't know about that. She may also get infection, which can jeopardize future chances of childbirth. To avoid all these complications, I implore students in all schools and universities, especially the Christian University of Uganda, to wait until they get married to have sex. As a Muganda says, sex mere ya muwogo ejja kudiba. You can't eat it all and finish it. And you can't say I have delayed it to get finished. It is always there. You understand? You ojja kulyako olekewo. The other day I was sniggering at a statement that men are naturally polygamous. Did you hear that? Men are naturally polygamous. If they were, God would have given them an equipment that has many prongs so that he can have sex with many women at the same time. God is good. And all the time. Do you know why women have menstrual periods? To give men a break. Because when you have sex with a woman, do you erode her? It is you go Congo kako. You try and she's always there. In fact, she can say, Ochayagal, come back. Ochayagal, come. A woman has more sexual capacity than any man can finish. You understand? Men, be kind to yourself. Stick to one wife. Contraception is a key factor in women's development. Before contraceptives were discovered and made widely available, women's career ended when they got married and started having children. Pregnancies followed each other in rapid succession. A mother couldn't take a break to pursue further studies. Contraceptives have made it possible for women to develop their careers, to become managing directors, to become army commanders, doctors, and professors. However, contraceptives are being used as a license for uncontrolled sexual behavior. Since in the presence of contraceptives, such behavior carries no consequence of unwanted pregnancy. What people don't realize is that contraceptives cannot guard you against contracting sexually transmitted infections and the damage to the relationships that follow such irresponsible sexual behavior. There is even a pandemic of sexually transmitted infections. Sexually transmitted infections are many more than we have time to discuss here and now. They include bacterial infections such as gonorrhea, viral infections like HIV and hepatitis B, and protozoal infections like chlamydia. Let's highlight some of the effects and complications of gonorrhea. In its acute phase, it makes the sufferer's passing of urine very painful. In fact, it can only be compared to passing a red-hot piece of iron passing through you. It is so painful and hot. In women, the infection can ascend through and literally peel away the linings of the fallopian tubes. Since the tube is very narrow, as it heals, the scar may narrow the tube so much so that a fertilized egg cannot pass through to be implanted in the uterus, thus causing what is known as tubal or ectopic pregnancy. As a rule, ectopic pregnancy, as it grows, ruptures the tube, causing severe life-threatening internal bleeding. The treatment of ectopic pregnancy is emergency surgery and removal of the affected tube. Clap your hands for me. I am able to do such emergency surgery and removal of the affected fallopian tube. But whenever I do, I count the fallopian tubes left. If this is the first ectopic, out of 2, I remove 1. How many do I leave? 1. Research shows that the risk of the remaining tube being implicated in a future ectopic pregnancy is higher than with the general public. Therefore, there is a real risk of losing the second tube and thus ending once and for all the woman's childbearing career. And you know what happens when you do that? You grow up and you become wiser. And then you have a nice uterus without tubes, but you have calmed down. You now no longer want to have every man have sex with you. And then God promised to give you a partner fit for you. So, after some time, you get this man to come and love you because, when you have had an ectopic and you calm down, you continue being very beautiful and attractive. And then, bingo, the man you get treats you like a princess. Okay? And then you come to Sam Luboga. You come to Sam Luboga. And then you say, I must produce a child for this man. Through what? In men, the infection may ascend up the tubes to the testes, giving him a very painful condition called epididymocarditis. Did I tell you I love difficult words? That's another one, epididymocarditis, which may result in permanent loss of one or both testes. And one day I had the misery of draining the two testes of pus and leaving behind a mere bag. Handle God's gift of sex with care. You know, we priests, Reverend Wasser, Reverend Walter, we priests, we have a difficult problem. We come on the pulpit and say, "Thou shalt not." And you listen. And then you go back and say, "Yes, he said, thou shalt not. But how do I not? You understand? So today, we want to show you how to handle God's gift of sex with care. How? Now learn. Here are a few tips as to how we can handle God's gift of sex with care and reap incalculable benefits. A Muslim friend of mine and a professor of medicine at Makerere University sought my help while working on a research topic entitled, "Does Your Faith Make a Difference to What You Say and to What You Do?" You understand? And it was in the context of HIV. When HIV is running amok among Christians, does your faith matter? I have many people who come to me and said, "Mukama yebaziwe." And then you remember what they do. How they told you, "Mukama yebaziwe yatuwaddeyo omwana," and you know they are not married. Is it just Mukama yebaziwe? Is it just sprinkling in the faith? Does your faith matter? If it does, adhere to God's directives with regards to sexual discipline, which are clearly spelled out in the Bible. In 1 Corinthians 6, verse 13, it was read to us, "The body is not for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body." Please take heed of Jesus' guidance when he said, "If any man will follow me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." With regard to sex, we can not lock it up in a safe and give it to you when you finish university. Wouldn't it be nice, Vice Chancellor, if whenever these people arrive, you collected their sexuality and locked them up? So, it is up to you to deny yourself. And the opportunities are many. Ati tiyimbira aziramuga. You know, okuyimbira is to kukwatagana, to have many. You have this and you take another. So, when you are young and struggleific, I don't think I was ever young and struggleific. But anyway, when you are young and struggleific, so many girls would like the opportunity for you to talk to them. And then you say, "After all, since Mbayita, they are just coming." No! Jesus is saying, deny yourself. The opportunities are there, but deny yourself. All good things are worth waiting for. Therefore, all of you here should abstain from sex until you get into a mutually faithful, monogamous married relationship. Vice Chancellor, I have good news for these people. It is possible to abstain. And to prove it, there is evidence. You are now abstaining. And you are not dying. You are not having sex. And you're okay. So it is possible to just wait. And when you wait, it doesn't get finished. It will wait for you. Devote yourselves to your studies and to pursuing and to preparing yourself for a life of great impact to the development of this nation. Can you imagine being in this nation? You know, in the Bible there is some story about the tree that wasn't bearing fruit. You remember it? And the farmer said, cut it down. It is not, doesn't even deserve the space it is occupying. If you don't have an education, you may exist in this nation, but you have no impact. But when you have impact, you know, a few years ago I was invited to go and live and work in New York. And I said, if I'm in New York, who will know I'm in New York? What would want me added to New York matter? But let me tell you a secret. You want to know? In this country, I am useful. I have told the community where I live, I have shown them where my bedroom window is. And I have told them, if you are sick at night and you don't knock to wake me up at night, don't kumbikira the following day. I'm a doctor, not an undertaker. And sometimes I cure by talking to people. Can you imagine that? There's this gentleman who came to me with high blood pressure. His marriage was falling to bits. He was stressed. And in addition to examining, finding these things and prescribing, I sat him down and talked to him. I gave him an appointment to come in a month's time. He didn't come. I was worried. I didn't know where I had put his phone number. So I called a friend who called a friend until I got his number. And I called him. But you didn't come for the appointment. He said, which appointment? I said, don't you remember you came to my office and I gave you an appointment? Out of sympathy for me, he came. And when I was talking to him, I said, how was the medicine? Did you finish it? I was worried you may need more medicine. He said, which medicine? I said, the one I prescribed for you. Don't you remember? He said, no, I didn't buy the medicine. The words you talked to me here were medicine enough, and we are now okay. If you think that is impact, I wish for you greater impact. And that can only be obtained by you devoting yourself to your studies at UCU. If you are pursuing your studies and also pursuing washing clothes for some man who doesn't love you, he deposed advice. But if they cannot control themselves, you know, he assumed we are wise people. He did not complete the sentence, but I know what the missing words were. Those who cannot control themselves from having sex. If they cannot control themselves from having sex, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. It is in 1 Corinthians 7 verse 9. Some people delay getting married, yet they are sleeping with each other. And when you ask them, they say, I'm still studying her. I want to get to know her before I marry her, but they are having sex. Let me demonstrate to you how to observe and how to study her before you get married. My wife will come here. Don't you see? Yes, I told you. And she will stop here for a minute. And I want to tell you something you may have known already. That 25 centimeters from my eye is my focal point. That's where I see things clearest. So if you want to observe the woman you are going to marry and you haven't married her, keep an arm's length. Because that's when you cannot observe. But if you embrace her, do you see where the eyes are? You are not even looking at her. What are you observing? I have some good news for you. None of you in this room, absolutely none of you in this room, who is 18 years and above, is too young to get married. If you wish to do so. If you wish to have sex, God has permitted you to get married and have all the sex you want. I and my wife Christine got married when we were both 24 years old. 6 months difference. Does that matter when you're in love? But listen to this. I was a third-year medical student. I wasn't a student of these, things you do for relaxation, I was a medical student. Do you mind? And we got married. Before I said that, we got married when I was a third-year medical student. You can sympathize with me. If I had delayed, would I have found her? Do you think you put on the mudala a girl like that and you come tomorrow and she's still there? No. So I had to get her when I could. And that was when I was a third-year medical student. My father had been murdered the year before, and I had responsibility for 16 brothers and sisters and 4.5 mothers. And I went to her and said, "Will you marry me?" And she said, "Yes." Clap your hands for Christine. That girl is worth her weight in gold and more. But marrying her did not prevent me achieving my academic and other life goals. I am not a failure at all by any calculation. Of course, I'm not Sudhir. I tell people, when you compare me with Sudhir, I'm a dismal failure. But when you compare me with me, I am an astronomical success. And much of the success is attributed to Christine. Why? Because 60% of the success of any project is attributed to encouragement, not money. And the encouragement you get from your wife or husband is the one they call longitudinal encouragement. When you come to me and I encourage you for 5 minutes and I disappear for 5 years, that doesn't matter. But your wife encourages you in the morning, calls in the afternoon, encourages in the evening. That's longitudinal encouragement, because as she encourages, she adds on what she achieved before. She put a bet. She took a chance on me, and God gave her a medical student. And look what she has produced. A professor of anatomy, a surgeon, a priest, do you mind? And now, by the grace of God, Chairman, Education Service Commission. She has done a great job. Besides, God has kept us together, loving each other dearly for almost 50 years. In October, we will celebrate 50 years, October 14th. And I'm telling you now, so that on 17th December this year will be a grand Thanksgiving. You remember they talk about grand Thanksgiving for Chikara. This one will be grand, okay? I wish I had the powers. We would have closed all streets and stopped all cars except our motorcade, taking us to Nambirembe Cathedral. May God bless you.